I've always prided myself on being practical, sensible, the kind of woman who thought things through before diving into anything. But that day in the gynecologist's office, all that went out the window. It started like any other routine visit. I'd made the appointment months ago, as I'd been neglecting my health for far too long. It had been a tough year. Work had consumed me, my social life was non-existent, and my last relationship, well, let's just say it ended in flames. I hadn't been intimate with anyone since, and the loneliness was starting to weigh on me. When I walked into Dr. Coleman's office, I wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary. I'd chosen him randomly, based on reviews and availability. He came highly recommended, but I didn't think much of it at the time. That changed the moment I saw him. He was breathtaking. Mid-30s, tall, with sharp cheekbones and an easy smile that somehow made you feel both comfortable and utterly undone. His voice was calm, professional, but there was a warmth to it that immediately drew me in. And those eyes, intense, piercing, and curious, as if he could see straight through me. My pulse quickened as he introduced himself, shaking my hand with a firm yet gentle grip that sent a jolt through me. "So, what brings you in today?" he asked, his tone light and conversational. I could barely focus on his words, my mind distracted by how his lab coat fit perfectly across his broad shoulders. I felt ridiculous. This was a doctor's appointment, for God's sake. But there was something about him that made my stomach flutter in a way I hadn't felt in years. I answered his questions, trying to keep my voice steady as he took notes. He was attentive, asking follow-up questions and making me feel at ease, but I couldn't help noticing the way his hands moved as he wrote. They were strong, with neatly trimmed nails and a confidence that suggested he knew exactly what he was doing in every aspect of his life. I wondered. No, I shouldn't let my mind go there. Not here, not now. But as the examination began, it became harder to ignore the tension building inside me. He was professional, of course, kind and gentle, explaining each step as he went. But the proximity, the soft touch of his hands, it made me hyper-aware of every inch of my body. My breath hitched as he asked if I was comfortable, his voice low and reassuring. I nodded, unable to trust my own voice. When it was over, I felt a mix of relief and disappointment. Relief that the appointment was done, but disappointment that I'd probably never see him again. I gathered my things, trying to act normal, but as I stood to leave, our eyes met. There was a moment, brief but electric, where neither of us looked away. My heart raced, and I could have sworn I saw something flicker in his expression. Curiosity? Interest? Or was I just imagining it? "Take care of yourself," he said as I walked out, his voice lingering in my mind long after I'd left the office. Over the next few weeks, I couldn't stop thinking about him. Every detail of that day replayed in my mind. His voice, his hands, the way he made me feel both vulnerable and seen. I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was just a fleeting attraction, a harmless crush. But the more I tried to ignore it, the stronger it grew. I started to wonder what it would be like to see him again, to talk to him outside the confines of a sterile exam room, to know him as more than just a doctor. Then, one day, I made an excuse to schedule a follow-up appointment. It wasn't necessary, and I knew it. But the idea of seeing him again was too tempting to resist. When I walked into his office that second time, the air felt different. Or maybe it was just me. Either way, the moment our eyes met, I felt that same spark, that same undeniable pull. "It's good to see you again," he said, his smile warm and genuine. "How have you been?" "Busy," I replied, trying to sound casual. But I wanted to follow up on a few things. The appointment was straightforward at first. We discussed my health, he answered my questions, and everything seemed normal. But as the conversation shifted, so did the atmosphere. I found myself opening up to him in ways I hadn't expected, sharing bits of my personal life, my struggles, my loneliness. He listened intently, his expression thoughtful and kind. "You've been through a lot," he said softly. "It's important to take care of yourself, not just physically, but emotionally too." "I know," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's just hard sometimes." For a moment, the room felt charged with unspoken tension. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as his eyes met mine, steady and unwavering. It was as if he could sense everything I was feeling, everything I wasn't saying. He was down there, going about his routine work, but something in his touch began to shift. His hands moved with a delicate, almost deliberate grace. By that point, it was obvious. This appointment was straying far from the usual course. My body responded before my mind could catch up. A slow heat spread through me, igniting something undeniable. His hands were skilled, knowing, intimately aware. After all, he understands exactly how everything works down there. He is a gynecologist, isn't he? And then it happened. I don't know who moved first, but suddenly we were closer than we should have been. The air between us seemed to crackle with electricity. My breath hitched as he leaned in, his voice low and hesitant. "This is unprofessional," he murmured, though he didn't pull away. "I don't care," I whispered, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and desire. "Not today." What happened next felt like a blur, a whirlwind of emotions and sensations that left me breathless. His hands, those hands I'd been imagining for weeks, were everything I'd dreamed they'd be. Strong and sure, yet gentle in a way that made me feel cherished. His lips were soft and warm, their touch sending shivers down my spine. It was like the world had melted away, leaving only the two of us in that moment. That's when I realized he wasn't just skilled with his hands. His mouth was something otherworldly, a sinful kind of magic that left me breathless. Afterwards, as I sat there catching my breath, a wave of emotions washed over me. Guilt, excitement, relief. I knew what we'd done was reckless, but I couldn't bring myself to regret it. For the first time in years, I felt alive, seen, desired. "I don't usually," he began, his voice trailing off as he searched for the right words. "Me neither," I admitted, offering him a small, shaky smile. "But I don't regret it." He nodded, his expression a mix of relief and uncertainty. "Neither do I." As I stepped out of his office, the cool air outside did little to soothe the warmth still lingering on my skin. My heart was still racing, but not just from what had happened. A question gnawed at the edges of my mind, refusing to be ignored. Should I feel guilty? I had seduced a complete stranger. Or had he seduced me? Does it even matter? Men do this all the time. Act on desire. Take what they want without a second thought. So, why should I feel any different? Why should I bear the weight of something that, for once, felt purely, unapologetically right? But the truth is, society doesn't see women the same way. We're not supposed to crave, to chase, to take. We're expected to be wanted, not wanting. And yet, in that moment, I had claimed something for myself. Something selfish, something reckless, something exhilarating. Do I regret it? Number. Not even for a second. But I know I'll never speak of it. Not to my friends, not to anyone. It will remain a secret tucked away in the depths of my mind, a wicked indulgence only I will ever know. And one thing is for sure. I won't be going back to that office. If you've listened to my story, Thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more whispered confessions like this one. And tell me, have you ever been in a situation where the line between right and wrong blurred? Let me know in the comments below.